name's Caitlin. I'm a holistic nutrition consultant and the author of a blog called grassfedgirl.com. Today, we're so excited. We have Coach Mary Roberts here. She is a food addiction specialist, and she is going to help us with our food addiction and overcoming all of our big problems with weight loss. And she has a wonderful story to share about how she has dealt with her own demons. Welcome, Mary.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So good to meet you in Zoom person.
You too.
And I've always liked your Instagram, and it's always resonated with me. I come from an overweight, obese family in the South, and probably like you, maybe. And my dad had gastric bypass when I was in 2005. And, so if I didn't do what I'm doing, I would be also 400 pounds, 300, 400 pounds. I know that I would. And, I just do everything I can to avoid that. Now I'm not skinny, but I'm not, diabetic. I'm really healthy. So I think
That's
I'm
what
doing
counts.
pretty well and better than most people. So, I want to hear all about you and your story and, what led you to this kind of specialty.
Well, I have struggled most of my life since I was a preteen. I think is when my relationship with food started to go sideways. I don't recall a time where it was ever really normal. So, I've struggled most of my life with eating disorders. I had bulimia, was hospitalized for bulimia when I was in high school. But before that, I would compulsively eat and binge eat. And so those are the three that I've struggled with most of my life. And, so I struggled in high school. When I look back, I didn't really have a weight problem when all of this started. I thought I did. I wasn't like a stick figure like a lot of the girls at my school. So I thought I was fat. And so it started, I look back and I see pictures and I think, I wish that girl knew she wasn't fat, right? Because then maybe I wouldn't have developed a disordered relationship with food. But that's kind of how it went. And I know a lot of people have that same experience. We look back, we're like, why? Why did I think that? So, just continued throughout my life. I got married, I had kids, my weight was always up and down. Food was always my comfort, my reward, my entertainment. I used it for, soothing myself. And then, of course, along the way, I became addicted to specific foods. Obviously, mostly carbohydrates, but someone with an eating disorder can overeat anything or compulsively eat just about anything. But I, in particular, had a very disordered relationship with carbohydrates. I gravitated towards sweets. I binge ate them and I was obsessed with food. I was always, looking for, simultaneously, looking for things to make, like baked goods to make, but also always on a diet, always looking for the next best thing. And I've done, gosh, I'm 52, so I've done Richard Simmons Deal a Meal. I did Nutrisystem, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Slim Fast. I took Dexatrim pills. If there was an infomercial for it and I had the money at the time, I was trying it. I was also Queen Calorie Counter, so I had calorie counts, for everything memorized. My very first tool for counting calories was this fat red paperback book that had the names of every food, brand food, fast food. It was dog-eared, highlighted. I used that thing for years, constantly, until of course the internet, and then a miracle happened and I could look at stuff up online. So I was just obsessed with food, obsessed with my weight and trying to lose weight. And it was pretty much all I thought about. And so having an eating disorder, distracted me from the rest of life. It's not that I couldn't have fun doing other things. I had lots of fun with my kids and my family and I would laugh and smile and enjoy myself, but there was always this like dark cloud over everything because I didn't like the way that I looked. I didn't like the way that I felt. And so, it's been almost 10 years ago at age 42, I found myself at my highest weight of 260 pounds. I had, raging type 2 diabetes. I had psoriasis, asthma, sleep apnea. I snored. I, got sick several times a year. It was just miserable. And I had dabbled in low carb a couple of times, obviously, because I was willing to try anything and everything like over the years. And I knew about low carb. And by that point, I had an inkling that, carbs were my problem, and that my history, my pattern would be, being able to lose a little bit of weight, and then it would end in some sort of like carb binge, usually in a McDonald's parking lot with a 20-piece McNuggets or something like that. And so I, at age 42, decided I'm going to try Atkins again. And I happened to share with a friend of mine that I was doing that. And he said to me, don't do that, do keto. And I had never heard that word before. I didn't know what it was or anything about it, but he explained to me that it was a high fat diet. And he started talking about bacon, eggs, and steak. And I started laughing because I'm like, I thought he was kidding. Like, I'm trying to lose weight here, right? Like, why would I eat bacon and steak and all? So, but when I realized he was serious, I went home, looked into it, found low carb, high fat groups on Facebook, and I just kind of like dove right into doing keto. And it's been almost 10 years now. And I have kind of divorced myself from the labels that are out there. There's keto, there's low carb, there's Atkins, there's carnivore, strict carnivore, there's all these things. And so now, even though my social media still says Keto Mary, and I probably won't change it, I just call myself meat-based. I eat meat because one of the huge things that I learned over the years is that nutrition matters. And so I focus on eating, primarily meat and a little bit of, vegetables, but I stay away from what I call drug foods. And that's all the things that, I've struggled with in the past, processed foods and things that are sweet and grains and all the stuff that I used to binge on. I avoid that. And I've done the work. It's been a lot of work to figure out why I have this disordered relationship with food. Like, why did I turn to food for everything? Because it didn't matter if I was happy or sad. The mood didn't matter. We use that term, I'm an emotional eater. And for me, like, most of the time when we hear someone say that, we think, oh, they eat when they're sad. But for me, it was like like I just used it, whether I was sad, whether I was wanting to celebrate something, it was all, the response was always, let's eat. So
entertainment.
yeah, because boredom, whatever. But I think, because of the way our food system is, that at some point, when we turn to food to soothe emotions and to try to, use it for coping, we do become like emotionally and physically addicted. I know a lot of people like to argue the physical addiction point. But I mean, there's books and research and, science out there that shows that, food companies literally do research and design flavors to keep us eating. So food addiction is real. And that's one of my battles, like fighting that message that it's not real, but food addiction is real. And so I had to figure out, like, why was I turning to food? And then start looking to fill my real needs and fighting back against that voice of sabotage. I think we all have that voice of sabotage. It's that voice that says, oh, you've been so good these last couple weeks, you deserve a treat. Or it's your vacation. Nobody diets on vacation. Eat what you want and then just get back on track when you get home. Or it's, oh, but it's Thanksgiving, it's Christmas, and it's other people telling us live a little, and us giving into that voice and constantly like being on this roller coaster and starting over all the time because we can't we just can't seem to like get it together. So I worked on all of that and looked for real ways to cope and ways to fill my real needs so that I wouldn't be turning to food.
That's amazing. Now just going back a little bit. So when you first started keto, you had all these health issues, and did they just start going away? Like your type 2 diabetes, like people believe that, you have to manage it and then you have to just stay on some sort of, you have to stay on medication, and then you have to you just have to eat normal or maybe eat less or something. And
Yeah.
then you just take your medication and I guess you're managing.
Yeah. Yeah. So all of the health problems that I had when I started went away. I did not know that that would happen. Like my one and only goal in the beginning was I wanted to lose weight. I needed to lose 100 pounds. Um, but what kept me going was I discovered eating this way, it did make me healthy. Because like in the past, I could lose 20, 30, 40 pounds, but I still had all my problems. Right.
Yeah.
But when I actually like changed, got my nutrition right and changed what I was eating, all of those things did go away. And as far as the diabetes, I maintain a non-diabetic A1C. I got off the medication that I was on like 3-4 months in. I stopped.
Wow.
I probably could have stopped taking it before then, but I was afraid to quit, medication. I thought I needed it, but about 4 months in, gave that up. And I've maintained just, as long as we continue to eat right, like it's not coming back. If I start eating Oreos and ice cream again, of course it's going to come back. But maintaining a real food way of eating, keeping it relatively low carb and mostly meat, there's no issue with me keeping it at bay.
Well, some people say, like, I mean, I've been in this, area for many, many years. And, some people say it's only because we restrict
Mm.
that we crave things. What do you
Yeah.
think of that idea?
I think that's crap. Like, I really can't stand that message that restriction is bad. There's this really like negative connotation, but if I'm doing something that's harming me, why is it wrong for me to restrict myself from doing that behavior? Um, the This is like telling the alcoholic, well, if you don't learn to drink, if you restrict from alcohol completely, you're going to end up drinking. When the reality is, no, if you keep attempting to drink a little bit, it's just going to get worse. Like we seem to understand the addiction paradigm when it comes to drugs and alcohol, but so many people refuse to look at food that way. And a lot of times the argument is, yeah, but with food, you got to eat to live. And that's true. We can't just stop eating the way that we can stop drinking or stop doing drugs. But that doesn't mean we need to eat everything on the menu, right? We look at the menu and we look and see which foods serve me well, which ones satiate me, which ones don't send me off the rails to eat a bunch of things that harm me. So I think that it's perfectly normal and healthy to restrict ourselves from doing things that are harmful.
That's good. I mean, some people say that if you just keep eating, like, say, ice cream or something, that eventually it would like lose its power over you. And then I'm like, well, maybe when I'm, 400 pounds, then I'll find out. But it's like, I don't want to wait until I've gained like 100 pounds
Right.
for then I lose interest in ice cream because I ate so much of it.
So for someone who's got binge eating disorder or compulsive eating, I'll speak for myself. There was never enough ice cream. Okay. When I ran out, it was upsetting. I had to look for more. Like there's no, there's like a temporary end. Like you have a binge and then you feel so sick and disgusted that you vow to never do this again. but 3 days, 3 weeks, three whatever later, like it always comes back around because we're not dealing with the reason why we're wanting to eat, a crap ton of ice cream.
And so, what do you do now? Like, what's your typical day of food?
Um, Eggs. I eat a lot of eggs. Beef, ground beef. I make liver pate sometimes, and I have it with bacon. Um, I personally like chicken breast with skin. I you know I the way I eat has evolved too. Like I used to eat a lot more of like the fattier meats, but I just gravitate more towards leaner meats. And I'm not saying that I mean, I go through like these phases. Like I go through like a chicken breast with skin phase, and then I go through a ribeye phase, and then I come back around to ground beef and taco bowls, and just kind of. But it all is mostly meat.
And so what are your health goals now?
To just stay healthy. In the beginning, I really, my whole life, I wanted to be skinny. And there was a point in this journey, like about, two, three, between years like 2 and 5, where I was very tiny. I was wearing a size 2. And I still, because of my eating disorder and body dysmorphia, I couldn't see it. I couldn't enjoy it. I wasn't happy with it. I still thought I needed to lose like 15, 20 pounds, struggled with that. And then, I say luckily, because of my age, I naturally started, even though I didn't change anything that I was doing, I naturally started to put some weight back on. So now I'm at like a healthier, like I wear a size like 10, 12 now. And when I started, I was a size 20. And when I started at size 20, I was always saying, I'd just be happy if I could be I'd be happy if I could be a size 12. And then of course I surpassed that and got like really tiny and couldn't enjoy it. So um my health goal is just to like maintain, where to stay where I'm at. I like to lift weights, so I consistently do that. I'll continue to eat my meat based diet. So I don't have any like big goals there. I just want to stay healthy and enjoy my life. I like not having to live life from the sidelines. I like being able to participate in life and wear the clothes that I want to wear. And I'm not constantly like preoccupied by my body and how it looks.
I mean, I like that you focus on weight training in your posts and stuff, because I think so many women, they just look at the scale and they never like take into account body fat. And, I was a personal trainer for 7 years, and I saw the way that body fat could change really quickly in my clients and even myself. And, it's such a better measurement than BMI or the
Yeah.
scale.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
so,
I definitely don't focus on this. I don't weigh myself at home anymore. It's been well over a year since I've weighed myself at home. I only find out what I weigh when I get a DEXA scan. And I do that to to watch my body composition.
and, does it tell you something? I always tell people, like, I have a few people that I talk to, how you have maybe some Instagram followers that like you end up talking to them like every single day.
Yes.
And then they tell you everything, and you're like, well, uh, I mean, this is like over years and years, and I'm just like, stop looking at the scale, man. Like, when is your
Yeah.
DEXA scan? When is your I did this test at my gym. It's called InBody, which is, I think, pretty
Mhm.
similar. And I want to go do it again because it was like a year ago. And then, but they moved it to like a different location. So I have to like drive across town it's still free, but so check with your gym because they might have that machine and it's free. I mean, if you have a membership. And so I
Yeah.
just have to drive to where they moved it to, but I've lost some weight, but I think that I've gained some muscle and I want to see, how that goes. Do you trust those like body fat scales? They seem kind of wacky.
I think that they're wildly off. The one that I had before I stopped weighing myself did all that, and it showed a 10% difference between what it said and what DEXA said. So I
Okay.
just don't think that they're like super accurate. Um, but I mean, they're good for they're probably good for showing trends, but probably not
Right.
like, pinpoint accuracy.
Going
So
downward maybe, but
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have one of those ones that you put out here, you
Hmm.
hold it, and that one I think is more accurate than like the one you stand on.
Yeah. Yeah, the in body, like a lot of people use the in body, and it's pretty, and they've compared to DEXA and it's pretty close. Um, but I mean, that's something that like body composition, that's something that I talk to my clients about a lot because most of them are like just obsessed with that number on the scale. They want to see that number. And I get that. Like that was me in the beginning. Like I just watched that scale go down and I always thought that, that was like the thing. And it wasn't for like till like several years in, even after like, weightlifting and stuff, that I realized that the muscle we had made a difference because I had how we all have like this one picture from our past, right? Like when we're ready to lose weight, we're pointing to that picture. We're like, I want to look like that. And I know exactly I have that one picture, and I know exactly what I weighed in that picture. And a few years ago, I did like a side by side like comparison, and a few years ago, I weighed 30 pounds more than I did in that picture that was my goal, but I looked smaller because of the muscle that I had. So I tell people all the time, it's the muscle that matters. Like quit obsessing about the number on the scale, because if you're losing weight and you're not doing weight training, a lot of what you're losing might be muscle, and that's not good. We don't want to lose our muscle.
Yeah, especially as we're getting older. Um, I'm not, but other people are.
Yeah, me either.
Um, now, do you have any advice for women that are maybe getting, over 40 and, how to not gain weight?
So I mean, obviously the biggest thing I could say is, get your nutrition right. Dump all the processed foods, keep it relatively low carb, use carbs, smartly, not don't be ridiculous and occasionally eat Oreos. Like you don't want to do that. Just stick with real food. Walk, lift weights, get sunshine.
Yeah, it's the everyday the things that you do every day that make a difference, not just
Yeah.
um and eating protein first, not I mean, I used to eat, Special K for breakfast, and then I'd be hungry an hour later, like
Yeah.
wanting to kill someone or like break down the vending machine or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a hard one. Like I do work with some men, but the majority of my clients are women, and it's a pretty big battle trying to get them to eat more protein. And I'm at the point like I just tell, look, like make your plate, and whatever meat is on your plate, eat all of that first before you go to your side dish. Because I hear all the time, oh, I just can't eat that much protein. But they're eating their sides. So I'm like, the sides are like bonus. If you have room after you eat all the meat, then you could go ahead and like, eat the side, but focus on getting the protein in because that's what we need. It's the number one thing that's going to satiate us. It's going to help us, keep our muscle and build muscle. And those things are more important than like getting the sides. And there's nothing that the sides can really offer us that's more important than the protein.
Absolutely. And I mean, for so many years, I was so hungry. And so when I found carnivore or keto and even paleo, like the fact that I could not be hungry as much as I was like, this
Yes.
is a miracle. Like, I'll eat protein, because I was just like, I had been so hungry for my whole life, like
Yeah.
never satisfied, just because I was always trying to eat less and like more
Yeah.
vegetables and just, that stuff, even lean chicken or something doesn't stick with you if you don't have any fat. I mean, it's better than nothing. Like the other day, I tried my first protein sparing modified fast for one day, but I didn't count calories and I ate 2,000 calories. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I suck at this, but I wasn't hungry, but I definitely don't think I could do it. Like, I mean, you're not supposed to do it back to back to back, but I was like,
Right.
great. I added up my calories and I had eaten 2,100 calories of pure protein. I was like, if anyone can do it, it's me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people, they undereat, they're chronic dieters, and they felt hungry like I know I felt hungry all the time because I was eating things that weren't satisfying. They weren't providing me any nutrition. And so people get stuck in that trap and think that they need to eat less. I think even, on carnivore and keto, people notoriously undereat. I think part of the problem is because now what we're eating is very satiating, so it kind of makes it easy to undereat, but it's not necessary to eat 800, 1,000, 1,200 calories. I think that it's okay to eat more. I maintain my weight eating 2,400 calories a day. Like I won't,
Okay.
I can eat, and there's been times where like I could eat, regularly, 20 up to 2,800 calories and not gain anything. So I just think I think it's hard to get women to accept that they can eat more than they're used to.
And I mean, of course it's that, but it's also like it's relearning because I think it's a
Hmm.
lot easier to eat maybe 2,000 calories of cereal or protein bars or hummus
Oh
and
yeah.
chips or something like that that women are used to eating and granola bars and whatever. But uh and also you have to cook. So like I mean, or you have to like go through and get burgers or something. Like you have to retrain yourself like what do you eat? And so maybe people
Yeah.
are like, well, I don't know what to eat, so I just won't eat or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but that's never been a problem for me. I always
Yeah. Well,
figure out, I always find stuff to eat.
yeah. I have not, I don't have a problem eating either. And, I do have some work with some people that have like struggled. They're like, well, I just can't eat that much. And it's because they're not eating the carbs. I'm like, look, if I told you to eat 2,500 calories of carbs, you'd have no problem like eating it. So it's not that you can't eat all that food. It's that steak and bacon doesn't really excite you the way that your Doritos do, right? Like,
Yeah.
so it's not that, people can't, eat that much. It's that it's like, it's not as it's not as appealing to eat real food as it is to eat like all of the, exciting foods that are out there.
Well, that goes back to the drug food thing because
Yeah.
they perfectly combine the salt, sugar, fat to hit certain areas of your mouth and activate your brain to want,
Yeah.
like, I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I would eat, my parents didn't keep junk food at home, but whenever I would travel, like, or I go to my grandparents, we'd have Doritos or we'd have Pringles. I mean, literally, we ate it until it was gone. Like, I would just shoot that
Mhm.
whole Pringles thing. And so don't
Yeah.
tell me. And my grandpa used to have Snickers in the freezer, and I would like almost break my teeth off trying to eat those frozen Snickers.
I remember that too. Yeah, my mom would freeze candy bars, and I'm like, why are you freezing them? But yeah, I had similar experiences. When I would visit my grandparents, they always had the freezer stocked with ice cream sandwiches and the fridge with Dr. Pepper. And I would literally like drink Dr. Pepper and eat ice cream sandwiches like every day, all day when I would visit them. And if you go on a road trip, you load up with the snacks. And we carry that, when we're disordered with food, we carry that mentality like with us. And I get asked so often all the time, like you probably do too, what are your favorite snacks? And for me, my answer is, well, you're not going to like my answer. I have no favorite snacks because I don't snack. I eat meals. I don't and when I go on a road trip, I'm not looking for anything to like eat while I'm driving. Like it's not, life is just like different, but it's hard to like get out of that behavior. Same thing like with the movies. Well, what do you eat at the movie theater? Nothing. I'm going to see the movie and be entertained, by the movie. And it's only because I've gone through the process of, doing, pursuing recovery every day, and doing the work that I can, get to that place. Obviously, there's answers I could give. Well, bring criminelli meat sticks and water with you. But really, why do you think you need food at the movies? Like, what do you,
Because you
how does
always
that make
had
the
it.
movie better? Or like, just if we're there to see the movie, then let's focus on that. And I know the first few times that I went to the movies without having anything, it felt very uncomfortable because there was nothing to do. Right? Like I would always eat like half my popcorn before, the movie even
You
started, because you're sitting
you
there
can't watch
like,
your phone in the movie theater, huh?
right, right. So yeah, so I mean, there's things like that we, come across, like all these behaviors that we have to learn to change. And I think we start with nutrition, like that's like the gateway to like, making all the other changes. I say a lot that, um keto definitely, keto, meat-based, carnivore, whatever you want to call it, like it definitely saved my life. It turned my health around, but it didn't fix my eating disorder. I still had to like figure out, I still had to change my behavior and the way that I saw food and the way that I used food. But keto was that vehicle that gave me the mental wherewithal to be able to do that. Like you can't be food sober and eat drug foods, like the moderation thing, like that's a big, argument. Like everybody, we all desperately, want to moderate, you know but for me, like I can't. That's not something that's gonna work for me, like
Yeah.
telling it.
I think when carnivore, or, you know, it was really the first time that I heard a lot of people saying, I kind of knew that about myself. Like I couldn't moderate certain things.
Mhm.
Because I mean, even when I had tried to make, keto treats, or even eating sweet potatoes or anything like that, I just couldn't stop. I would, next thing you know, making a sweet potato smoothie, or,
Yeah,
something like that. I would figure out a way to make it fun or something. And
yeah,
then it was the first time I really heard people just saying abstain. And I was like, oh, okay, that's really speaking to me, because I do much better. Even with dairy, for example, I can't even moderate dairy. I try, like, I'll be in the morning, I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna have 2 tablespoons of cream in my coffee. And then by the afternoon, I'm like at Starbucks. I mean, I don't necessarily go for the sugar stuff, but I'll eat so much cream that whole day that it's like, um, I mean,
yeah,
it blows any, effort that I'm doing to like maintain my weight. And because I think I have autoimmune disease, that it's like it bloats me up really bad when I eat dairy.
yeah,
If I do stop at the 2 tablespoons, like I'm fine. Well, with my weight, I'm fine. But my brain is like,
right,
well, you
more,
had cream today, so why don't you just go on and keep going? And then like by the end of the, I mean, sometimes it does go to the sugar. It'll be like, I'm at the Haagen-Dazs. And I'm like,
yeah,
well, it's just cream, and it's just I mean, this is your sabotaging thing
yeah,
in your head saying, well, it's just cream and milk and sugar, and what's the big deal? Like
yeah.
other people, it's
The voice
healthy.
of sabotage is illogical,
Yeah.
right? Like it has us, it takes us from like this minor problem to this like extreme, situation. And I'm like you, like I gave up heavy cream like 4 or 5 years ago now, because it I would do the same thing. I would literally like carry I would put the 1 tablespoon measuring spoon in a Ziploc baggie in my purse, and I'd go to Starbucks and I'd order my coffee and I'd ask for steamed cream on the side, and then I would like, so this is Monday morning, and I would measure out my 2 and throw the rest away, and by Friday I'm back to ordering. I'll have a tall dark roast with this much steamed heavy cream, right? Like it just, I couldn't moderate it, so I had to give it up. Um, so I think a lot of people struggle with that, and as much as we would like to, like from day one, okay, I'm just going to eat real food. I'm going to do this. I think the keto treats and the different like products and replacements and stuff serve a purpose for some people. Like for me, my first year is by all accounts um dirty keto. I ate Atkins bars, I made low carb muffins, and those are things that I would consider like transition foods. And I had to have the experience of eating those things to realize that eventually, you know what, I don't really need this. Like I had this like epiphany one day. I had this recipe for low carb. I always tell this story: low carb blueberry muffins, and it made 6 muffins. They were 2 carbs each. So what do you think my disordered brain did? 6 muffins, 2 carbs. I can eat all 6 for 12 carbs.
Of
And
course.
so that's what I would do. And then finally, it just dawned on me that it's not normal to eat 6 muffins at once. It doesn't matter if it's only 12 carbs. Like that's disordered behavior. And it kept me like focused and obsessed on the food. But I think when we are pursuing recovery and looking to really like change our behavior, we have those experiences, and what we eat evolves. What I ate year one is certainly, I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary. It's totally different from what I eat now. You're but guess what? Year one, I lost 83 pounds doing it that way, because even doing it that way was phenomenally better than what I had been doing.
And
So it made a difference.
you've got to start somewhere. And
Right.
I mean, and it's, at least you're eating, keto muffins and not, muffins from, Intman's or whatever.
Right. Right.
Um, well, though, now do you go to like, I mean, I used to live in California, and so like, there was a lot of, I mean, I know it's nationwide, but it's like those sugar groups, and I mean, kind of like Alcoholics Anonymous for
Yeah.
food. Do you do any of that kind of stuff, or?
I don't anymore. Like over the years, when all the years that I struggled with my eating disorders, I was in and out of, like, I had been in inpatient programs, I'd been in outpatient programs, group therapy, Overeaters Anonymous. I did those things, and they never helped me. Like I could take like little nuggets here and there. And I mean, certainly there's like slogans that I've heard, from all of my experiences that I can use today. But the problem with them was they they didn't address the nutrition enough. Like I was, they have you, a lot of these places, they have you like make a food plan, but the food plan includes all the stuff that, I believe firmly that humans shouldn't be eating. And the message was moderate. Like I can remember when I went into the hospital for, treatment for bulimia, they, on the one hand, they would like watch me eat and then stay with me to make sure that I couldn't purge it. But what I ate was like, they had like in the cafeteria like muffins and pasta and like all these, it wasn't like healthy food. They thought it was. But they, most of these, the ed treatment community, like the failure rate for recovery is like super high because the main message is moderation. And I think it's
Just eat anything, right? Like just eat.
yeah, yeah, just have one. Well, Susie, if I could eat just one, I wouldn't be in this situation, right? Like it really frustrates me when people put that message out there. Well, my husband used to say to me all the time, well, it's real simple. Just eat less and exercise. And I'd be like, really? Really? It's that simple? Like, why didn't I think of that? It's just pretty insulting to tell someone who struggles that the answer is to just have one. You think I didn't try that? You think I do this on purpose, that I have not tried to eat just one and walk away? I couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, you think I haven't tried to eat one and then shove it down the disposal, or put it in the
Yeah.
trash and pour water on it, or run it over to my neighbor's house, or
Right. But guess what? I have car keys and a debit card. So
I can go get more.
yeah, I'm just gonna get more.
Have Amazon fresh or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, my husband says that all the time. He says like, just it's moderation, everything in moderation. And I'm just like, really? And then it's funny because then he told me he does low carb every once in a while, and he'll lose like 50 pounds, but he doesn't see that like it has to be a lifestyle like every
Mm-hmm.
time. And he's just exactly like me, basically. Like
Yeah.
he can't have just a little bit of ice cream or cake or whatever, even bread. He can't, even gluten-free bread. He'll try to eat gluten-free bread instead of regular bread. And it's just, I mean, he just eats
Yeah.
four pieces or 5 pieces, or he's eating
Yeah.
it every single meal. So he's like eating 12 pieces throughout the day. It's like, well, that's a loaf of bread, like what?
Yeah. Yeah. Our ed brain desperately wants to believe that we can moderate, right? Like, so, there's a lot of people out there with that message that it is, moderation. But for most people that struggle with their weight and have, part done engaged in like regular binge eating or compulsive eating, like we don't have it in us to moderate. But the voice of sabotage keeps saying, like, uh don't, don't listen to that. Like that's not it's not normal to restrict her. It's not normal to eat only meat, or it's not, keto's an eating disorder. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that over the years. That's an eating disorder, or carnivore is an eating disorder. And it's like, no, it's disordered to continue to eat things that I know harm me, that I like lose control with, that it's disordered to eat something that I know gives me high blood sugar, that makes me gain weight, that aggravates my psoriasis, or that's disordered. But somehow the message has been flipped in society that eating like crap is what's normal, and any of us that like deviate from that are somehow disordered. But that's not true. And like there's very few people that are actual moderators. My husband is a true moderator. He does not care about food. He literally only, like, when he realizes he's hungry, will eat. Like, he, for many years, he just naturally ate once a day. He just doesn't care about food. He will order a dessert, take a couple bites and be done. And I would always look at him like, who does that? Like, we just paid $8 for that piece of cake at the restaurant, and you're only going to eat 2 bites. I'll finish it. So he's just one of those people. You know, not many people are true moderators like that. It's a very small number. And I think if you look at, like, what is the latest statistic, like 93% of the population is metabolically unhealthy. So I would say like a good number of those people have some sort of disordered relationship with food.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I think growing up in the times when we did, it's like there were such bad messages in, I mean, I'm sure that's why what led you to bulimia is these images of just completely emaciated people and girls and
Yeah,
videos. And
I don't like I've mentioned this before, and I'm not blaming it. Like, but when I was a teenager in the 80s, like I read 17 magazine, teen magazine, and every girl in it was like stick thin, and like I thought that's how I was supposed to look. I normal weight, and I come from, I developed early, so I've always been a little curvier than, my friends. So I couldn't recognize that, I was just curvy, and that I could never be that like stick thin person.
yeah, they only had like one body type that they showed
Yeah.
in magazines, and I've never been like that either. I've always been more big boned or whatever. And um I mean, even when I was at my thinnest, like the thinnest I ever got was like a size 6. And I mean, I was like completely flat chested. I mean, so that's not really that's
I
how
have the
I
opposite
lost
problem.
all, I mean, I lost all the weight, but from the wrong places, like,
Yeah. See,
and I was like, okay, this is not helping. Like, I just look
That
like
did not happen to me. Even at my smallest, like I was wearing a size 2, and this might be too much information, but I was still a triple D cup. And people were constantly asking me, "How did you keep your boobs?" I'm like, "I don't know. Like it's genetic. Like that's how."
yeah, I've always been like, I mean, always thick thighs,
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's
and see, but that's the thing, that it's norm. Like as women, we naturally are supposed to have more body fat than men have, and somehow, like in society and all the messaging is just like gotten really screwed up, and all of these things that were seen as signs of health for women for so many years, suddenly became like, oh no, that's bad, and it's just really sad how screwed up we are as far as like body image. And I know there's like this whole debate. Like I'm not in the camp of like I think we should be positive about our body, but also I'm not in the camp that like glorifies being 400 pounds. Like so, but that's out there now, and so there's all this debate about that, and on the one hand, like we're supposed to love ourselves, love our bodies, and then treat them well, but anybody who is not, like, I don't know, there's just like all these different, even in like the carnivore space, maybe you've noticed this, like the women with abs are really up there, on a pedestal as like this is the goal, and that irritates me
I
so much
can't
because
think
not
of
all of us want to have abs.
who that is, but yeah, I mean, abs to me mean amenorrhea,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't fall. I mean, I can only think of one person that has abs that is even in a carnivore space, and I think I like muted them because I was like, I don't want to see this. So yeah, you have to be careful with what you expose yourself to. It's all, you have to have boundaries. If something's making you feel really bad about yourself, like you have to just
Yeah,
block that
unfollow.
out. Yeah, I mean, and the other thing about, I was gonna say, like, I mean, how did you overcome the bulimia? I mean, I had a friend in high school that had bulimia, and she would go and we would go eat somewhere, and then she would go in the bathroom and throw up, and it was just so sad. And I mean, it seems like that would be really hard to overcome. I mean, I never could throw up. Like I would try, even when I was
Well,
drinking, I couldn't throw up. So I was like always wanting to throw up, but it didn't work.
yeah. So when I stopped, like, so bulimia, like the general understanding, that when you say that word, most people do think like purging, vomiting, and that was how mine started. And I didn't have any problem doing that, and I avoided like eating in public or with other people because then it was hard to purge. Like you can't excuse yourself and like go do that. So I, binged and purged at home, and then, kind of, was normal, didn't eat or ate very little in front of other people. But once I went through treatment for bulimia, and basically I was scared straight into not like vomiting because I was convinced like I was going to have like my esophagus replaced, or like like they just scare you with like these health things, which is true, it is scary, you can have a lot of health problems. So I was afraid of like getting really sick. So of course when I stopped purging, I just started gaining weight because I couldn't stop the binge eating.
Hmm.
And but bulimia is not just the act of like physically purging, it's also laxatives, it's over exercise, it's over fasting. So like any behavior that we engage in to try to undo an eating decision is
Okay.
bulimic behavior.
Okay. Well, I definitely did the over exercising part.
Yeah.
Um, I never could. I did get. I'm sure I tried laxatives once or twice, but I think I got scared that like I was gonna cause some kind of permanent damage or something.
Yeah.
I mean, back to the thing about, being 400 pounds and like celebrating your body. I mean, I think in order to lose weight in a sustainable way, I mean, I remember when I first started losing weight, I was doing like Weight Watchers and but it was a lot of prepping, you know, I couldn't just, and I was working out. I mean, so there was an element of self-love there because I was doing a lot of
Yeah.
shopping and I was prepping a lot of food, or just at least having it around and taking my lunches to work and all that stuff. I mean, there was a lot of self-love and taking time to exercise after work or before work or whatever. And I think you do have to have that element because you're not going to stick with anything if you don't actually care about yourself. You may not have the right information or the right tools, but there has to be that, uh, I mean,
Yeah, you can't hate yourself thin.
yeah.
And I think too, like if you get to a place where you know really true, like not just I think a lot of times the focus is on loving the body, like physically how it looks, like embracing like the being large. But I think if we're talking about real like true self-love, we are able to recognize, hey, this 400 pounds can't be good for my heart. This 400 pounds can't be good for my joints. Right. And so we try to improve ourselves and get better and get healthy because we do love ourselves. We want to live longer and we want to, enjoy life. I don't believe that a lot of the people that are walking around, in very obese bodies are actually happy. I think it's a way to like cope and not deal with the trauma and the disorders that we have. So it's just like, well, I'm just going to embrace this. But I don't think anyone is truly happy with that. But that's my opinion.
Well, but you have insight because you were, 260 and my highest weight was 240. And I mean, I used to get the chafing so bad, like that I couldn't even walk. Like it hurt so
Mhm.
bhad when my thighs would rub together.
Yeah, it was not fun. There was nothing fun about it.
And I was young, I was 22 and I had no energy like the way the other kids did at my age, they were all going out and partying and stuff. And I was like, I just want to go to bed, like, and that
Yeah.
was to me, my back was hurting. I mean, I was trying to wait tables and like my back was hurting, everything was hurting because I was so heavy.
Mhm. Yeah.
You can't just gloss that over. Like your body's
Yeah,
not designed to carry that much weight. It's just,
that's right.
I don't know how people, I mean, I do think, you shouldn't, I mean, one time I traveled internationally and I was like 220 pounds and I was like, you know what? Like, I don't feel that great in my body, but I'm just going to go and I'm going to have fun. And like, and I'm proud of myself that I did go and not just not hide at home or whatever. And I'm glad I did that experience. Was I uncomfortable sometimes? Yeah. But
Hmm.
I had fun. And so I think you have to have a little bit of both. Like you have to still say, I'm gonna enjoy my life. I'm gonna love myself the way I am right now, but it's okay to get better. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And you know, I I think the younger generations are better about like taking the risk and like doing things. But I think a lot of the women my age have a similar experience to me where we mostly lived life from the sidelines. We didn't do a lot of like I missed out on a lot of activities with my family because I was too heavy or too afraid or too self-conscious. And so I think that's the experience of a lot of people, just like not fully engaging in life because of the way that we look or how much we weighed.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do have to just go with where you are today and try to make the best of it, and then you can always adjust. And like you said, you start with whatever you can start with. Like I started with like gluten-free, and then
Hmm.
I mean, once I got sick with autoimmune disease, I started with gluten-free, then
Hmm.
paleo, and now it's carnivore. And of course I would love, and I mean, I may introduce more foods at some later time or whatever, but just enjoy your today and do the best you can. Last question, what about, dealing with these holidays, they're coming up, and you're talking about the ED brain and the messages. And I mean, it's really hard for me. Last year, I gained 20 pounds, starting about, Halloween, um, and then it went through about May or April, and I started losing, and I lost 20 pounds. So
Yeah.
I'm 20 pounds down. And I mean, I had a baby 3 years ago, so it's just been kind of like really hard to um, get the weight off. But so how do you
Yeah.
get through these? Because I already can hear it in my brain, like, oh, well, because I was already thinking about Thanksgiving, and I was getting like
Mhm.
upset, and I was like, I want to register for like a turkey trot because I don't want to just sit around with my parents all day just pigging out, like.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is notoriously the time of year that a lot of people struggle. A lot of people that have like started keto or carnivore this year and have been really faithful to it, this is the time of year where they'll probably, a lot of them will fall off. And it could take them a really long time to like find their way back. And so for me, like I look at everything in context of my recovery and being food sober. And so Thanksgiving, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas, New Year's, like all of, first of all, they're only like, each of them are only 1 day events. But we treat this season like it's all of the days, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not just Thanksgiving Day. It's like, oh, like eating season starts like Halloween, October 31st is when it starts. And so for me, I just look at it as, what, those days are just like every other day. There's nothing special about it because my like my diabetes, my, or insulin resistance or my addiction, whatever, like it doesn't take a break. It doesn't take a holiday. And so I have to treat those days like I treat any other day as far as food. If I get into that mindset and agree with the voice of sabotage and family members around me, by the way, who say things like, but it's Thanksgiving, but it's the holiday, live a little, stuff like that. If my ed believes those things, that's just going to end up in a downward spiral and no good for me. So I just choose when people say things like treat yourself or live a little, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to treat myself right. I'm not going to eat this food that I know is like literal poison to my body and to my brain, and that is going to like, be the beginning of the end for me. And I don't want to live just a little. I lived a little all the way up to 260 pounds. I want to live a lot. So therefore I'm not going to engage in these, behaviors that like steal my peace and my joy and my time and my health from me. So that's like the mental perspective. But there's definitely like tools and strategies and phrases that we can tell people. Like I run a group. It's actually starting it starts with right before Halloween. And the main point of the group is to help people get sober, obviously, but I do it this time of year because this is the hardest time of year. And so if you don't want to find yourself at January 1st like with all of like this regret and feeling like you're starting over, and we all know the feeling of starting over, it sucks, it is not fun. There's nothing, people, we kind of like get excited about, ooh, January 1st, right? Or Monday or the first of the month, like it's some magical time like in the future where suddenly it's going to be easier. And it never is, and especially it's not going to be easier if we spend 3 months binging and eating all the things.
Yeah. I mean, do you like limit like the time that you're at the family? I feel like as the hours drag on, it's harder and harder.
So I think that we should do anything that we need to protect our sobriety, to protect our peace. And if that's leaving early, or in some cases, like, it depends on like, we have to anticipate the family dynamics, and everybody's got like a different situation. I am at a point in my recovery, and also I have a very strong personality, and I don't let people bully me. So I'm at a point where like I can sit there And nothing they do bothers me in the sense that I feel like I need to eat what they're eating. My biggest struggle is not judging them. Like, I get really like, because this year after year after year, they all complain about the same things. And but they don't want to make any changes. So like I would leave early because they're irritating me and they don't seem to, make the connection between, the changes I've made and the results that I got with like what they're doing. So I would probably leave for that sooner than I would leave for, oh, that I really want some of that cake, because that just doesn't, my Ed doesn't say those things to me anymore. Like I can't be tempted by cake.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even the it's well, it's the healthy, like I'll make, or there might be some things that are healthier, or but it's for me it's like at this point in my journey it's dairy. Like,
Yeah.
because I'll be like, well, I'll just have some cream in my coffee, and then, or I'll make a keto cheesecake, or, like I'll think that thing's okay. And
Yeah.
it's really difficult. Or I'll say, I'm going to make it for everyone else. And then, something like that.
Yeah. So what I've done in the past is I have made like keto desserts for the holidays. And if I choose to have one, I have one. And then I send the rest home with other people. And if no one wants to take it, it literally goes down the disposal, because if it sits in my fridge, um, I will think about it.
Yeah.
And I don't, I don't need that aggravation. And so, and I've had people, when I've told that to people before, they've said, well, isn't that wasting? How come you're wasting the food? Well, it's eating something that I don't need and that harms me, or it's energy, like food energy that I don't need, is also wasting it. And so I would rather put it down the garbage disposal than have it harm me.
Isn't that like from Mean Girls, like in the trash or on your ass?
Oh,
I think that's what they say.
that's funny.
So- Something like that. Um, so thank you so much, Mary. It's wonderful advice. You guys follow Mary. Was it Keto Mary?
Keto Mary 71 on Instagram and Facebook. Yeah.
And you have a group starting. You can DM her on Instagram and get the info about that. Sounds really helpful. So, everyone, please leave a comment down below if you can relate to any of our stories or any of our experiences. We really appreciate you watching today. Please share this with a friend who it might help, and subscribe and leave a thumbs up. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you.